The Morning Show, starring Steve Carrell and Jennifer Aniston, only started streaming on Apple Plus in September of 2019, but it's already one of our favorites. The show, which takes its inspiration from the culture of early morning American television, recently debuted its second season, and fans are shocked at the turn the story has taken. In particular, the decision to kill off a major figure in the show. So, what essential key character has been killed off this season? Which character undergoes a major sexual enlightenment? All that and more coming up, so keep watching. Warning, there are major spoilers ahead. Number 1. The show killed off Mitch Kessler. Those of you familiar with the storyline of The Morning Show so far will know that Mitch, former early morning TV anchor, played by Steve Carrell, is in the midst of a massive sexual misconduct scandal in Season 1. In Season 2, Episode 7, aptly titled La Amara Vita, which when translated into Italian means the bitter life, Mitch is in self-induced hiding in Italy. Alex, played by Jennifer Aniston, is so distraught by the possibility of a tell-all book coming out which details her former sexual relationship with a disgraced ex-TV anchor that she follows Mitch to Italy and begs him to release a statement denying that the two had any sexual relationship. Later that night, after an explosive argument and almost tender moment with his former lover and ex-co-host, Mitch takes his car out into the Italian mountains and drives off a cliff. Yikes! We know that Mitch was the so-called villain of the series, but his death still comes as a pretty big shock. More importantly, what is the show saying by killing off one of their most important and central characters? We'll talk more about that further on in the video. Number 2. Season 2 covers the COVID pandemic. Moving on to more details about the new episodes, Season 2 covers the coronavirus pandemic in depth. Much like many other shows which were in production when the pandemic broke out in early 2020, The Morning Show had to decide whether to cover the pandemic in the script or pretend that it didn't exist. Of course, they chose to cover it up in the script. It is a show about the news after all. The new season covers everything COVID related, from initial media dismissal of the virus to Daniel catching the last jam-packed train out of Wuhan, to Alex testing positive for the virus in episode 9 after returning from Italy, one of the countries worst hit by the first wave of the pandemic. The opening episode of the new season even takes place on New Year's Eve 2019, a date that probably feels pretty eerie now to most of us, and helps us to set the dark tone for the coming episodes. Number 3. Bradley and Laura get together. Another development from Season 2 is that Bradley, played by Reese Witherspoon, comes out as bisexual. We'll talk about more what that means for the show later on in the video, but for the character of Laura, openly a lesbian, it means exploring an LGBTQ+ relationship on the show for the first time. Yet many fans are already speculating that this relationship won't last, with others pointing out that it was simply a ploy to gain favorability points on the identity politics front. Some critics have pointed out that all the major cast members are white and heterosexual, and that the characters of color on the show are often secondary to the central plot lines. What do you think? Are you excited to see some more LGBTQ+ representation on the show? Number 4. Will there be a Season 3? Moving on to future plans for the show and fans, you might want to buckle up, because you might be in for a disappointment. As of today, there are currently no plans in place to record Season 3 of The Morning Show. Whilst it's disappointing to know that the series hasn't yet been renewed for a third season, there is still hope that we'll be able to again follow the lives of Alex, Bradley, and Laura. The executive producer, Mimi Leder, gave fans some encouraging words when speaking to TNC. Right now, there's nothing to announce, but we loved working on the second season, and we'll see. Leder said, "There's much love for the show. It seems like people are digging it. There are many more stories to tell for sure. We'll see." Whilst it's not a direct confirmation, it's also not an outright denial. It seems that the possibility of further seasons hasn't been ruled out yet. With so many A-list stars in the show, conflicting schedules and projects might be what's currently stopping the show from moving forward for a third series. Fingers crossed for Season 3 in 2023. Number 5. Season 3 won't be about COVID. Whilst we don't yet know if The Morning Show will be renewed for a third season, what we do know is that any third season will not be about the coronavirus pandemic. Executive producer of the show, Mimi Leder, confirmed that any new seasons of the show all venture off completely in different territory, turning the COVID pandemic into background noise. While we're still very much living with the impact of the Delta variant, Leder says, if there is a third season, it will not be about COVID. I promise you that. What fans might not know is that both of the show's 2 seasons were completely repurposed to reflect and comment on current events that were happening at the time. Whilst the show was in pre-production in 2017, the Me Too scandal broke, exposing movie stars, musicians, and many well-known early morning TV faces as having been secret sexual harassers and abusers. Immediately, the direction of The Morning Show changed, with the producers deciding to reboot the stories and characters to reflect the long overdue expose of the TV networks and surrounding environments. Similarly, in 2020, whilst the show's long-awaited second season was in production, the coronavirus pandemic broke out. Once again, a year's worth of script writing and editing had to be rerouted and written to reflect the current global moment. This begs the question, what global event could be unleashed in the event of a third season? Number 6. Season 2 covers the theme of cancel culture. Another interesting theme from Season 2 is the frank exploration of cancel culture. Cancel culture has been a part of our lives for years now. The concept being that if you do or say something morally reprehensible, the public have the right to destroy your career and even your personal life as punishment. Whilst the show's dramatic killing of Mitch might give the impression that the series favors shock value and entertainment over sophisticated culture analysis, some of Mitch's lines in his last episode speak to the central question of of cancel culture today. Are you evil, aka canceled, if you do one bad thing, or do we have the possibility of redemption? In Season 2, Episode 7, not long before he takes his car and drives off a cliff to his death, Mitch says to Alex, "I just don't want you to think I'm evil." The idea that one bad thing can define whether you could be considered a good person or evil is the central question which proponents of cancel culture cannot answer, and apparently neither could Mitch. Unable to override his conscience and perhaps considering himself evil and therefore irredeemable, he drives off into the abyss. Do you think the show is endorsing the idea promoted by cancel culture that one evil action makes a person irredeemable, or do you think that the show ended Mitch's life in the most dramatic way possible in order to encourage a more human approach to forgiveness? Was his death avoidable or deserved? Let us know in the comments what you think. Number 7. Bradley comes out as bisexual and the show explores LGBTQ+ issues. Next up in another win for the LGBTQ+ representation on the show, Bradley comes out as bisexual. Whilst the show does good to explore Bradley's sexuality, especially considering her age as a woman in her 40s and her southern conservative upbringing, the show also covers the shallow way that identity politics can be used for personal and professional gain. When Bradley is eager to cover the presidential debates but is overlooked in favor of Alex, she tries to discreetly tout her bisexuality as a reason that she should be selected as a debate moderator. Whilst the point may stand in theory that she could bring new perspectives, it just doesn't make any sense. Bradley is not at all at ease with her newfound or perhaps newly unrepressed bisexuality, and is hardly out there waving the pride flag. So the fact that she uses this detail of her identity in order to advance professionally, whilst refusing to out herself fully, explores both internalized homophobia and the shallow way that identity politics can be wielded for personal and professional gain. So there we have it, all the hottest details from the newest season of the morning show. But now we want to know what you think. Was Mitch's death truly merited, or did he deserve a redemption story? Will Bradley and Laura's newfound love blossom into something more? And the biggest question of all, do you think there will be a Season 3? Let us know what you think in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more content like this sent straight to your inbox.